Going on, everybody? Welcome to Striking Gold, your 49ers podcast on the Blue Wire Network. My name's Rob Lauder. That's Kyle Posey, and we cover the 49ers for all of you folks on the other side of the speaker, other side of the screen. Appreciate you hanging out. Appreciate you being here. KP also does that stuff for NinersNation.com. And if you're on YouTube, you might have noticed the thumbnail, a little call out to a popular meme. Ah, shish. Here we go again, because the 49ers training camp shenanigans, injury shenanigans, has already begun. KP, tell me how you feel about it, man. What were your reactions today reading through the news?
Almost made it to August.
Not quite.
That's what I'm saying. That's how ridiculous this is. Think about that, man. They couldn't get out of just the first few days of training camp without not just nicks and cuts, right? Not just small injuries to role players. Ricky Pearsall, one of the most important players on this roster for the ceiling of this team, has knee swelling now. And the way that the beat reporters made it sound like is he might not even they may need surgery to fix whatever the PCL issue was that pretty much cost him most of the first half last season. So just the most 49ers thing imaginable day after day, man. I know it has to be annoying for Shanahan just to wake up or just to get news. As imagine being the guy walking into Shanahan's office like, hey, man, yeah, we got some more injury news for you. Just that would be the worst job imaginable. But that dude stays busy, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, it's brutal, man. I mean, it's to a point. The sad reality is the head coach couldn't even escape an injury this year, and that's a little more serious thing. If you haven't been catching up with that, the latest is it eventually, through everybody's journalism, through the police channels, found out that one, Kyle Shanahan was holding a phone at the time of the incident, and two, the other person involved in the incident, apparently a 21-year-old female, was initially found at fault. Kyle Shanahan heard about this after everybody started talking about it, called all the beat writers into his office for like a personal meeting. I listened to Matt Barrows talking about it, and what's funny is he lives really close to Levi Stadium, and he said he got there in like less than 15 minutes because they sent out a text telling everybody, hey, Kyle Shanahan wants to talk to you. When can you be here? Or can you be here at this time? And Matt Barrows says he got there within like 15 minutes. But because Kyle Shanahan didn't want to have to say the same thing over and over to all of them, Matt had to wait there for like 2 hours for Matt Barrows or for Matt Mayoko, the other Matt, to get there. And so, he was the last one to get there. So it was just a funny story about Barrows waiting for Mayoko to get there. And apparently there was about half a dozen media members in there who all, report to their respective sites. And Kyle Shanahan told him this wasn't that chick's fault. And the girl's name's not out there. She's not being – hopefully there are no 49ers fans in this universe who are trying to seek that young woman's name out, because that would be disgusting, especially after Kyle Shanahan told these beat reporters, no, that woman was not at fault. I dropped my phone, reached down to pick it up, and when I looked back up, I was in the other lane. Basically, as he was raising his head up to – one – Kyle Shanahan, like amateur technique. You can't reach for your phone without keeping your head up. Like, he needs to work on it. That for a former receiver, that's a little embarrassing. You know, he took his eyes off the ball. But as he was lifting his head back up, he hit the other car and the airbag went off in his face, with his face right in front of the steering wheel. That's why he got the concussion. That's why he broke his nose. And something to do with the visor is the reason that his face split open. So, again, like, one, Kyle Shanahan's fault. Two, pretty brutal way of getting in a car accident. It's his own fault, you know, for playing the cell phone game while you're driving. But we've all done it. Everybody's dropped their phone and tried to pick it up while they're driving. It's a classic tale. But
Probably this week.
right, exactly. Probably within the last 7 days. But that is how. And so, you know, kudos to Kyle. This whole thing's been a little bit weird. Why it took 11 days for everybody to find out, I don't know. And like we said, don't really care. But the fact that he saw her being blamed for the accident and decided to call everybody in, on the surface, seems like the right thing to do. I'm sure there's some conspiracy theorists or something floating around that makes this weirder than it needs to be. But it's already weird for a normal car accident. Things are already weird. Kyle Shanahan's back at practice. He's been back at practice since they started. He just is only supposed to be out at practice for a certain amount of time. Sounds like he hung out there today for a little bit longer. Came out at like 11 and didn't leave until the end of practice. And I can guarantee you, and this is total speculation on my part, I guarantee you Kyle Shanahan is putting in too many hours inside the facility when it comes to watching practice and watching tape. I guarantee you the doctors have told him to do very little of that, but knowing him, he's probably doing a whole lot of that. So it just wouldn't surprise me. He seems like the stubbornness to just be like, yeah, I could watch a little bit more. So KP, any of that surprise shock you, or you have any feelings on the latest in the Kyle Shanahan saga?
No, I mean, first and foremost, good on him, right? By coming out and just taking accountability. And we don't know the woman's name, but to essentially clear her name, like, no, man, that was my fault. We don't need to get into any kind of conspiracy theories about what was the police trying to cover up or clerical error. Sure, I bet. So, right. I mean, just whatever. The good news is that, you know, he's recovering, and that woman is not going to have have like her insurance spiked to whatever it is.
Right. And some 49ers fans works in her insurance company and is like, oh, I can handle it.
Right. No, transfer her to me.
Right. And maybe more importantly than anything else, she did not get hurt. She was not
right.
hurt.
Also true.
And I have personal experience in what it's like to be in an SUV that's hit by a car. We were going through an open green light, and a car turned right in front of us. We were going straight. They had to wait for oncoming traffic. She did not wait for oncoming traffic. Pulled in front of us. Let me tell you, an SUV versus a car is not a fair matchup. It's like a defensive lineman versus a kicker. And so we were not injured at all. The other person wasn't injured, but their car was done. So I just know from experience. Sogras with a good point here. He says, people have conflated unlimited access to information with entitlement to information. No idea how fans were impacted finding out when it happened, or 10 days later. It doesn't. It just changes when the conversation happened. And, you know, again, my theory is that the 49ers or Kyle Shanahan were fine with it. He said that he didn't tell anybody not to report it. It just didn't get reported. Right. And I'm assuming him and the 49ers were fine with no one talking about it. And once they realized that those injuries sustained in the car accident were going to impact his ability to start training camp, then they had to tell everybody. You know, otherwise it would have been him at the podium looking a little jacked up saying, hey, here's what happened. But anyways, that's the injury everybody's talking about. Now let's get into the injuries taking place in training camp that are already impacting the roster. Obviously, KP already mentioned it. We're leading with wide receiver Ricky Pearsall, who, and you said it right. From the reports, the fact that the 49ers are reportedly, I'll read you Nick Wagner's tweet. Obviously, Nick Wagner does a great job of covering training camp, man. It's to the point now where you should follow everybody that covers the 49ers, but Nick is such a valuable resource in and of itself. But he said wide receiver Ricky Pearsall is dealing with knee swelling related to the PCL injury he suffered last year. Team says, quote unquote, all options are being explored and there is some concern. So when I read that, I think surgery is likely. That's just what my
Right.
brain says. I'm not a pessimist. I'm not a negative guy, but when a team outwardly says and make sure all the beat reporters know that they're considering all options, it
Plan on it.
seems right, right. And again, we could be totally off on that, but and I'm assuming that would be season-ending surgery. And the one thing I would push back on that I've already seen is one, why didn't he just have surgery last season after the injury? And then two, why didn't he have surgery during the offseason? And the only thing I would say on that is like surgery is like a last resort. If there is a way that the injury can possibly get better without surgery, every doctor on the planet is going to explore that. And my guess would be that Ricky Pearsall, up until this point, has not been advised to have surgery. And now that the injury clearly is not recovering and is now under football stress and getting worse, now it's an option. So, KP, what goes through your mind when you saw that one?
Man. So I did think about this, not having surgery, not going to clean it all up. But the fact that, training camp just started less than a week ago and already going through the day-to-day things that you need to as a football player, his body's not responding well. So if his body's not responding well in July, what's it going to be like when there's actual contact, when he actually has to recover after getting hit on Sundays? So we've talked about it all offseason, how big of a season this is for Ricky and how much the 49ers need him, or honestly, he needs to show them that he can be around for the long haul because an extension talk is going to come up. So this is not the way. This is probably the worst possible way to start out if you are Ricky, because I think it should be worth noting. Like, he was really freaking good last year when he was on the field, but he wasn't on the field enough to warrant the talks that, the type of wide receivers he could and maybe should be compared to. But this is definitely not going to help any of the injury naysayers. And I know ideally, this is all worst case scenario talk. And, come 3 weeks from now, he's back and
Right.
there's no Pearsall missing games, because if he is on the field, like, between him, Evans, and Stribling, and that goes out saying with Kittle and McCaffrey, they are going to be very dangerous and arguably as dangerous. They're going to be knocking on the door to what they were in 2023. So they really need a player like Pearsall, I would say.
Yeah, so Graz added in here, AI overview does say PCL surgery would be 6 to 9 months recovery. So yeah, season ending. And Toolman, I saw your messages. I don't want to think I'm ignoring them. We're just kind of moving on from the Shanahan talk, but I got you. I just want to let you know I saw your stuff there. Yeah, we said it over and over again throughout the offseason, man. It was like the one thing Ricky Pearsall needed to be able to do was participate and be on the field. And that's why you hear so many people say, look, like, somebody can be great, but until they're great consistently, you just can't give them any credit yet. And the way I felt all along is everything I've seen from Ricky Pearsall on the field has been encouraging. It's been great. It's been awesome. It's been, great receiver play. But that's just when he's on the field. And so far, he has really, really struggled to do that. And it's surprising. I don't know why in 2020, Ricky Pearsall only played in 4 games. I don't know if that had to do with an injury or not. But if you go to Ricky Pearsall's college games, he played 13 games in 2019. He only played 4 games in 2020. I don't know what that was from. But then in 2021, he played 13. In 2022, he played 13. And in 2023, he played 12 games. So there was really, especially recently, there was no reason to assume that Ricky Pearsall was somehow going to consistently deal with injuries. But since he got here, he has just not been able to hit the ground running, for lack of a better term. Eggy said, this might be me coping, but I feel like this is precautionary rather than worrying. And that very well could be the case. Yeah, that's a good reminder. I don't want to lean too far into the surgery thing without even knowing. But
trying to catch it before it gets to surgery is what another angle this could be.
Yeah, it's just, we're just, again, I just don't want anybody to be like, hey, well, you guys are talking about surgery and he doesn't need that, sure. It just felt, by the way it was reported by the team, it felt that way. So, knee swelling does not mean he is injured, guys. It just means the knee is reacting to increased activity and is totally normal. Rice is the easiest way for any PCL injury to recover. So, and that very well could be the case. Really what we're reacting to is the way the team reported the injury to the media and the fact that they're exploring all the options and that they're concerned. Usually stuff like that comes out when you're already towards the backside of things. But let's, in addition to Ricky Pearsall, you've got Christian Kirk, who is currently out with a calf strain, and that's kind of an ambiguous injury that could be brief and it could be weeks, so KP, talk receivers, man. Where does this, who benefits from the opportunity, and where do you see things going from here?
Yeah, so I think we were talking about, bubble players a few weeks back. This definitely benefits a guy like Demarcus Robinson, who is going to be fighting for a player like Christian Kirk for the last wide receiver spot. But without Pearsall, without Kirk, and this could be for a couple weeks, but it's going to allow Robinson to prove to the coaching staff, like, hey, remember me? Like, I can be a guy. I can be maybe I'm better suited for the wide receiver 4 kind of role, but that's exactly the role he's going to be in. So I think it greatly affects guys like Demarcus Robinson in a positive way. And of course, Jordan Watkins and Jacob Cowling, they're going to get opportunities. They were always going to get opportunities, but I feel like they're going to have more chances now to shine in practice, because in these practice settings, they generally favor wide receivers the most. So all these young guys for sure, but more so than most, I would say Demarcus Robinson. And he might have already been, penciled in on the roster, but I think a long-term injury, especially to Kirk, almost cements his status on the roster. What do you think?
Aggie said Egging felt like Stribling is the biggest beneficiary. There's a yes and no to that for me, because I feel like Stribling, maybe the Christian Kirk injury closer relates to Deshaun Stribling, because I think Christian Kirk was kind of that competition for the third wide receiver role, maybe in the slot. And I think that's where, if with Christian Kirk out, Deshaun Stribling's probably going to ease into that role. And then when it comes to the Z spot where Ricky Pearsall was going to be, I'm assuming somebody like Demarcus Robinson is probably the first to slide into that spot. And what they probably don't want to do is, because you've got your 3 spots, you got Mike Evans, who right now is the constant over here. Then you've got Ricky Pearsall, and then you've got Deshaun Stribling. You don't necessarily want to have to move Deshaun Stribling to Ricky Pearsall's spot and then put somebody else in Deshaun Stribling's spot. You keep Deshaun Stribling where you were planning on him, and maybe they were already going to give him work at Z, so I could be wrong there. Maybe he's at the Y. And you just replace Ricky Pearsall at the Z, and you leave Deshaun Stribling where it was going to be. So it could be Demarcus Robinson that benefits the most from it. Maybe he's the one sliding in there. But maybe they want to see what Deshaun Stribling's got out there at Z. So which could work for him as well. What we said initially right out the gate when the 49ers drafted Deshaun Stribling is he could play any of these spots. He has the skill set to play X. He has the skill set to play Z. And to me, I've always felt like if you can play X, you can play all of them. And a lot of teams like to use a smaller, shiftier guy in kind of the slot role. But the 49ers tend to favor like a bigger slot, maybe out of necessity. But they like having a big receiver there, probably because of the blocking that you get from it.
Which is why I say, like, I wouldn't think that, this really matters for Stribling, because I think his role was pretty defined coming into, just based on the other wide receivers on the roster. I would imagine he's going to play that F position, that slot position, just between the numbers kind of guy. Whereas now without Pearsall, that's where Demarcus Robinson can slide in. Maybe that's where they let a guy like Cowing or Watkins slide in as well. So yeah, what we got here?
You got to read that one.
Just giving Shanny a reason to cave into his Debo. How many texts has Debo sent Shanahan over the past 48 hours? Because he's just sending gifts of him just like looking down at her. Hey, like, I'm still here.
Tonight he's going to get a text at like 2 a.m. that just says, hey, you up?
Man, I would say, and I know he's a fan favorite, don't do it.
Don't do it. KP's not into it.
That page is turned, man. That chapter is closed.
Toolman said, longtime Tampa fan here. Evans has always had a hard time playing 17 games, but was always a constant contributor. Can't wait to see his production here. Yeah, the weird part about that is that right now Evans is like sort of the injury concerns came with Evans, especially with his last season and his broken collarbone. But right now he's the one that's healthy. So, I mean, you can knock on all sorts of wood all you want, but it could be weird. And this is just leaning into the tightrope we've said the 49ers are walking when it comes to greatly relying on players that may not be reliable. And we'll see, hopefully things kind of settle down, but they've already lost 2 receivers, and that it's just crazy how quickly things change, man. It's wild. Let's keep moving through roster, man. The next one I got on here is Malik Mustafa, who has a hamstring strain, and I don't think we've gotten a timeline for that one yet. that's already shaping things too, because Malik Mustafa, as of the first 3 days of practice, so let's keep that in mind as well. It's hard to make any sweeping judgments off of 3 days of practice, but Malik Mustafa was currently in a competition that it looked like with Marquise Siegel for the safety role next to Jair Brown. And Jair Brown, to his credit, from what everybody's talking about, has had a good start to training camp. Made a diving interception that you got to see on video. That was impressive. KP, where does that lead you, man? Where does a hamstring strain for Malik Mustafa lead you, and who's benefiting from that one?
Again, so this is like a true competition. So if Malik can't practice, then that just opens the door for Jair Brown to live around the line of scrimmage, because that's really the role that they're competing with, I would imagine. If Marquise Siegel is the true free safety, deep safety, center field type, then it was probably a competition to see what the other two can do around the line of scrimmage. And Jair Brown's best suited closer to the line of scrimmage, in my opinion. So if anything, he's got to feel great about this news. Like, hey, man, I'm going to get more reps, because look at the depth chart. Like, Ashton Davis is not a guy you want around the line of scrimmage. He's sub 200 pounds. And really, after that, you're just kind of like, what is this name? Who are these guys? Like, we talked about Larry Worth a little bit. He's an undrafted free agent, another guy near the line of scrimmage. Other than that, though, like, we're talking about undrafted free agents.
The Derek Canteen disrespect.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Patrick McMorris, is that who's going to be the one?
That's a real name.
A very real name, yeah. So it's the last thing you want if you're the 49ers, because Malik was supposed to be healthier 1 year removed from his knee injury. But now it sounds like he has another injury that's going to cost him maybe a week, maybe longer than that. Maybe they're super cautious with him, understanding he has to be a part of their long-term plans. Does this make Raheem Morris call the Atlanta Falcons?
About Jesse Bates?
Yeah. Or just John Lynch put out what is the thing you fire up in the air when you're lost at sea?
A flare, or he could
throw out a
light
flare,
the
like,
beacons
hey,
of Amadine from Lord of the Rings, just a signal for help.
Yes.
Like,
hey, everybody, please, we need safety help, please.
I would be surprised if they hadn't already talked, to be honest, unless Raheem Morris didn't have great things to say, and and they did replace him, Suedo. So, unless he didn't have great things to say, but it wouldn't surprise me if those had already talked. I think he's trolling me a little bit here. He said, maybe the hyper athletic guy that played all the positions. I don't remember his name. I think his name was something the third. Larry Worth the third. Yeah. Respect. The next acronym you start getting, or the next numerical, you start getting into the V's. So talk to me when you're there, Larry. So yeah, it's tough, man. So, I mean, I don't know what to make of the competition we've had so far. You've got Malik Mustafa, and apparently he was rotating with Marquise Siegel opposite, and Jair Brown was the constant one. And now you're going to get a whole lot of Jair Brown and Marquise Siegel, and that could be a good thing, man. And again, we talked about the idea that Raheem Morris maybe would kind of change the tide when it came to Jair Brown, and maybe his story wasn't written yet as far as his struggles over the first couple years and first few years. So now Raheem Morris steps in. Jair Brown looks like he's doing well. And the other thing that's an interesting dynamic to this is the offense seems like they're having trouble adapting to what Raheem Morris and the defense and the new scheme is throwing at them. Trent Williams was complaining about it, saying, I've been here for a long time and I got used to what we were going against. And all of a sudden Raheem Morris shows up and I'm not sure what's going on.
Love that.
So, and maybe the secondary is benefiting from that as well. So I'm interested. I think Marquise Siegel benefits the most in the fact that he will immediately insert himself as the starter opposite Jair Brown. And those two could maybe build a little bit of chemistry. And Jair Brown, like you said, can play a role that's a little more comfortable, and Marquise Siegel can handle the back end. So it'll be interesting to see how those two handle this. And in a very similar fashion, running back Jordan James. We talked last episode about the fact that Jordan James was having a good practice and then all of a sudden disappeared from the lineup, and Kalen Black got a lot of the second half of practice carries. Well, it turns out Jordan James, backup running back Jordan James, in non-padded practice, somehow managed to fracture his ribs. Depending on the severity, that could be a semi-brief injury. A lot of times they end up saying that rib fractures are like a pain tolerance issue. But given the fact that the next practice the 49ers are going to have is in pads, it might be a little bit of time. So, KP, tell us where that backfield goes now.
That's tough, man, because we talked about it. I mean, everybody's talked about it. 49ers are probably going to need to rely on 3 running backs this year because you want to take some, if not more than some, of the workload off of Christian McCaffrey after the season he's coming off. So they were going to do that, it seems like, because Jordan James was heavily involved early. Like he was the guy coming in after McCaffrey. I've talked about him being the down-to-down back that, might be the guy to end the games with in like a 4-minute offense. But somehow, some way, uh, did not. Sincere McCormick to the moon.
Buy
Somehow,
stock. Buy on Sincere McCormick.
somehow, some way, man, Jordan James, welcome to the 49ers. You do not get to make it to August either. And now this means they have to see what Kalen Black is. And everybody's talking, or not everybody, but I've seen some, hey, like Kalen Black, he's so fast. Like he's fast. Well, yeah, he ran a 4.45. Like he's supposed to be fast. This should not be new information. I guess what I would be worried about, or I'd be a little concerned about is like, what if he's a rookie? What if he wears down? What if it's just too much info too soon for him? That would be terrifying because, man, and what if it's the other way around where, okay, Kyle Shanahan doesn't trust the guy behind him, which was exactly the case last year with Brian Robinson Jr., and now it means more McCaffrey, and that could lead to, potentially bad things on the injury front, not as a football player because McCaffrey is amazing. But if, again, ideally, James is back within, let's just say September. I don't know, like fractured ribs. It doesn't sound great. It doesn't sound like something a running back is going to be able to deal with, to be able to play through. So a guy that they were probably relying on just to suffer that injury before the shoulder power, before all the full pads came on, just suboptimal for sure. Do you think this is going to sideline him until week 1, or are we going to see him in the preseason at any time?
Didn't he have a training camp injury last?
Sure did. I'm very
I can't remember what it was. Was it a broken hand, a broken thumb?
I think it was. It was a thumb.
I think it was. Yeah. So Aggie said Kyle Juszczyk benefits the most, 1,000 receiving, 1,000 rushing, incoming. Man, it just culminates his career, which is the most incredible fullback season of all time out of nowhere. And maybe just to stoke the flames a little bit here, maybe the injury to Jordan James makes Kyle Shanahan miss Deebo Samuel even more in the wide back role and giving him some carries because Deebo loves those extra carries.
Might not be bad, but you can't take Kyle Juszczyk because Kyle Juszczyk has to play tight end because George Kittle's hurt. So like the domino effect only goes so far because there are so many other starters, not just like contributors, starters that are missing.
Yeah, it's got to be frustrating for Jordan James, man. He came in and looked encouraging in the very brief time I saw him in training camp last year, and then breaks his thumb and basically is out. I think he only practiced like maybe once or twice. It was really, I think I just happened to be there, and then takes him a long time to recover. I can't remember the way Kyle Shanahan outlined this timeline, and then didn't get any carries until the 49ers were getting blown out in a divisional playoff game, and gets into training camp. By all reports, through the first few practices and the offseason program, looked good, and then fractured his ribs in non-padded practices. And from the sound of it, I saw Brad Graham of SF Niners mentioning that Fred Warner was taking it easy on the punch outs, because Fred Warner, every single play, is trying to punch that ball out. He's working on the technique that he uses during the season. We've seen him punch out many fumbles. And if you watch the clip from yesterday's, there's a clip of Fred Warner coming up and making a stop on Jordan James and punching the ball out. And I think a lot of people are speculating that Jordan James might have fractured his ribs from a Fred Warner punch, which would be so 49ers. But there's no way that's not substantiated. It's not for sure. We don't know. But again, you couple that with the idea that it sounded like Fred Warner was holding up on his punches, and Brad Graham kind of described him doing like a this thing, like hey, I'm not doing it, I'm not going to do it. And so maybe there's some truth to that, but again, that's unconfirmed rumors. But that would just be, again, the most 49ers thing for a player to get injured from a defensive player trying to punch the ball out. And if you're not aware, if you've never been to 49ers training camp or you've never seen them practice, the defense, and this is spanned through multiple coaches, and I'm assuming it's very popular in the NFL, until the refs blow the whistle on a play at training camp, every defensive player is supposed to rally to the ball and try to get it out. And whether it's ripping at it, punching at it, and it causes a lot of stir, players get pissed off. It's created some struggles in camp, some fights based on the fact that the defensive players are just supposed to go after the ball like maniacally, and it doesn't even make sense in a football game. But what you're doing is you're building good habits, and in the game you do the same thing, and all of a sudden the ball's out. So that's where that comes from. And now you've got Kalen Black, who is the running back too, in a training camp where you're going to assume that the 49ers are going to give a lot of downtime to Christian McCaffrey. He's definitely going to be the recipient of rest days. That being said, though, I don't know if we talked about this. I think we heard about it today. Did you see somebody talk about what the coaches said about the 49ers' new training camp schedule?
So, yeah, they made it seem like there's not going to be like back-to-back days type of thing. You're talking about what Kubiak said?
Yeah, and he talked about the fact that they're doing 2 practices and then a jog through, which is a really light practice, and then an intense practice, and then they get their day off. And I think one of the reasons he gave for that is so hopefully the veteran players would feel like they wouldn't need as many rest days and would get to participate in more practices. So, maybe guys like Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams and Nick Bosa are going to practice more, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's all Kalen Black, right? Like he just gets more of an opportunity to showcase his skill set and how he fits into this offense. Everything I've read about him so far is just looks decisive for a rookie and obviously looks fast. One of the things you consistently see running backs in Kyle Shanahan's offense, young ones too, that may not have experience in kind of that zone scheme, is they don't know when to plant their foot and get upfield. They can't really read it yet. They can't see the flow of the play yet. And it sounds like Kalen Black's already got it down. I don't know if that's what they did in Indiana, if they ran an offense similar to that. But I mean, that's big time for him. Is there anybody behind Kalen Black that you could see is kind of fighting for a spot? This would have been a great time for a little Isaac Garendo, but he is injured. You got Patrick Taylor Jr., who they already know what to expect. So I guess it's Sograz's man, Sincere McCormick, to the forefront.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think I don't even think Isaac Garendo would have made that much of a difference, which I mean it doesn't sound great to say, but I would imagine that, like, again, this is like perfect. You mentioned Kalen Black and how he just has a great running style. He has a very north get upfield running style. He does. Like, he doesn't waste any kind of movements. That was one of the things that did stick out to him when I was watching him coming out. So, like, that's going to go well for him. But looking at the rest of the depth chart, like, is it going to be Sincere McCormick finally? Probably not. Yeah, I think it just means more of a workload for Isaac Garendo. But Patrick Taylor has to like this because he's a special teamer, and it just gives him more of an opportunity to make something happen.
Yeah, like you said, the thing is we can't really see is without pads. Yeah, and even with pads in a training camp setting, it's really hard. It might be more of a preseason thing. It's really hard to see what running backs can do in training camp because sometimes there's runs that are obviously successful and no defender was able to get their hands on them enough for you and with your vision, with your mind, to justify calling that a tackle. But a lot of times they get bumped and hits and you're like, did he get tackled? I'm not sure. Was that a big run? A lot of times the running backs keep running no matter what. So you're really just interested about it, but yeah, it's going to be the Kalen Black show. And now again, going back to Jordan James, it's fractured ribs. It may be a relatively short time, and he won't be out very long, but we'll see. Especially when we're coming up on the pads. On the opposite side of the ball, the next on my list is Grayson Halton, who is out with a bone bruise, and that's another one of those ambiguous injuries where it could be bone bruise in his knee. It could be 2 weeks. It could be a month. It could be 2 months. They vary in severity, so we'll see where that goes. I know he was already seen getting good work on the side field, so that's a good sign that he's already scooting and moving. But and this also, you can combine this with Alfred Collins, who's still out with his shoulder injury, but he's expected back. At least John Lynch made it sound like he's probably going to come back during this next window. This next practice window, Friday to I think Wednesday it should be. So you've got CJ West getting a ton of reps. You've got Osa Odigizua getting a ton of reps who they might want to think about giving rest and wrapping in bubble wrap. Where do you think that defensive front is, KP? I saw something saying the Browns were bringing in Jadeveon Clowney for a workout.
I did see that too.
So Yeah, man, it's tough to and you want to if you want to combine it too, you've got Andrew Farmer who was released with a back injury, you've got William Bradley King who was waived injured. I didn't see his injury, and Romello Height had cramps. Is it are you worried about that group?
Man, they're bringing in guys who they're signing guys in my mind.
Yeah, what were those names again? You can
It was Holton, or sorry, here, let me look this up.
Quentin Bell and KJ Henry.
Quentin Bell and KJ Henry. So versatile edge guys who could probably rush a little bit. I actually looked at some of Bell's stuff. He did drop into coverage a little bit, but he was primarily the linebacker who walks down at the end of the line of scrimmage, and he is going to just give you something off the edge like that. So in my mind, the 49ers are trying to prepare for what life might look like without Mykel Williams, to have that versatile edge defender. And it's probably not going to be the player we're talking about. But what if it is one of these other guys, like a Jaden Duggar, like a third-round pick, Nick Martin? So they're probably going to want a similar body type to come in after him, just to give the offense a different look, or to give some defense some consistency there. So that's what I took from the signings. But, man, it's just – the fact that we're talking about the depth chart like 4 days in, like not just the regular depth chart, right? Not just the dudes at the top of the depth chart. We're talking about some guys that we've probably never heard of that signed off the street. I'm watching Quentin Bell against Drake May and Quentin Bell against the Bills last year, just to see like, okay, who is this dude? What is this person? So again, I think it's just to prepare for what a potential life could look like with more 5-man fronts, because that might be what the 49ers have to rely on, especially if we don't see Mykel Williams early on.
They both seem like very similar players, KJ Henry and Quentin Bell. Maybe they're both competing, for like a role. I don't know if either of these guys have a chance at a roster spot, but again, with Mykel Williams probably starting on the pup this season, it may get weird. Both Quentin Bell is 6'4", 258 pounds. KJ Henry is 6'4", 255 pounds. KJ Henry ran a 4.63. Quentin Bell ran a 4.53. And they're both big dudes. So, yeah, they do seem like guys that would play that pseudo defensive end / maybe defensive tackle on pass rush situations type of Mykel Williams role. I don't know if they have any shot of making the roster. You assume guys brought in at this point don't. Both of them are journeymen that have hopped around between many, many, many teams. I think one's got like 5 and one's got like 8. So I'm not necessarily saying those are big signings in a way, but my thing was, we've talked about this, is I feel like they should have already brought in another guy that was capable of almost a shoe-in to make the roster,
Right.
So, like a Jadeveon Clowney, if you sign that guy, you're like, okay, he's on the team. And they haven't done that yet. And I think that they're kind of selling themselves a little short. I understand that the salary cap gets real dicey next year, and they're trying to roll over a lot of that money. But, I mean, do you want to compete or not? And I feel like if there's one position group I can point to on this roster to the group that needs to stay close to 100%, it's the defensive front. Like, that's just – you just don't see teams go deep into the playoffs or win the Super Bowl anytime recently without a great defensive front. So it's tough for me to see them. I just feel like they're underselling a bit. I feel like they need one more. And they're still relying on guys like Nick Bosa coming off of injury, Mykel Williams coming off of injury, Grayson Halton currently injured, Alfred Collins coming off of injury. It just feels a little short-sighted. I feel like they could probably do a little bit more. And just as of right now and the way things are going, I feel like the 49ers are probably going to regret not doing a little bit more. So we'll see where it goes, though. Still very, very, very early. Last one we haven't talked about yet was backup swing tackle Vidarian Lowe, who already has a high ankle sprain. That's just another one on the list. Do you think anybody benefits from that one? In the back, somebody like an Austin Pleasance who's pulled the swing tackle lane before. It's just high ankle sprain could be a lot of time, man. I think that Vidarian Lowe makes the roster no matter what, just based on the contract he signed and what the 49ers want him to do. But I don't know. Do you think this helps anybody out back there on the depth chart?
I think this is good news for a player like Enrique Cruz, just to get more and more reps.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say.
If anything, I think you just leave him out there and kind of let him learn on the fly, maybe lose and fail on the fly, and he gets to go against some, big time edge rusher. Ideally, that would be Nick Bosa. It's not going to be Michael Williams, but he gets to go against speed and just different looks from Raheem Morris. So, yeah, I would imagine Enrique Cruz more than anybody. But outside of that, no, not really. Just because, like, you want to play guys, you want to practice guys who you think might have a chance to get in the game. And who else on this roster would you say? It's not going to be Brandon Parker. It's not going to be Austin Pleasance. Like, you go out and get low, so Austin Pleasance doesn't have to play. So realistically, just Cruz.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. And I think when Vidarian Lowe first went down, I can't remember who I heard talking about this. Enrique Cruz was the first person to come in and basically played for the rest of that practice. And then the next practice, it was Austin Pleasance to come in. But the fact that Enrique Cruz is already getting quality reps and is stepping up to a point where you could consider him like a primary backup, that's great, man. Enrique Cruz has a lot of freaky physical qualities. He just needs to be coached up. He's got some technique deficiencies, but if Chris Forrester can really work his magic on him, he could be a very, very good player and somebody that could possibly step in for somebody like Trent Williams. And given Trent Williams' age and status on the team, whoever's behind him is going to get a lot of reps. So this injury, Vidarian Lowe's injury, plus how Trent Williams goes about training camp, could really open the door a lot for Enrique Cruz and how many reps he gets and how much time he gets in the preseason. And yeah, that's where I was going to go with that too.
Maybe this speeds up his just learning curve. It accelerates the learning curve, and it might end up being the best thing long term for Cruz.
Aggie said, "Juice. He blocks like an O lineman. He can do it all.
Put him everywhere.
Juice is the answer for everything.
You have to change your jersey every day."
Yeah, he's going to be a defensive lineman too. They need to get Juice in the defensive lineman rotation. Sograz says the offensive line is interesting. I could count 11 who probably have claim to make the roster, and no way they carry 11. Yeah, I would be surprised if they did that. There's things are going to get weird with wide receiver, whether or not they're keeping 5 or 6. Things are going to get weird with the defensive line and Michael Williams, and whether they're keeping 9 or 10 or somewhere in there. So there may be some weird roster shenanigans with handshake deals and we'll sign you back in a little bit type of stuff, but it would be hard for me to see them keeping that many offensive linemen. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 starters, and then I'm penciling in Carver Willis, their 4th round rookie, Enrique Cruz, their 5th round rookie, keeping Robert Jones. So now we're at 8. Then that leaves I'm keeping Vidarian Lowe. So you're already at 9. You're almost at a full roster's worth of offensive linemen just based on the ones that seem obvious. If they tried to cut Enrique Cruz, he would get claimed on waivers without a doubt. So it's hard to see them going anywhere with that group. Aggie said, wasn't he like QB4, punter or kicker? Tell me he can't do it all. Give him a chance of the defense and he will dominate. Still back to talking about Kyle Juszczyk. Yeah, I think Kyle Juszczyk is the emergency quarterback. If both the quarterbacks on the roster, and if they didn't have a third emergency quarterback, Kyle Juszczyk would be the emergency quarterback after that. You might be right when it comes to kicking too. That might be correct. But okay, I think we did it. Is there anybody else that's injured that we have not talked about?
No, but give it time because the next time we are on here, there probably will be.
Right. Again, the list right now is Kyle Shanahan, Ricky Pearsall, Christian Kirk. Kyle Shanahan, Ricky Pearsall, PCL knee, Christian Kirk, calf strain, Malik Mustafa, hamstring strain, Jordan James, fractured ribs, Grayson Halton, bone bruise in his knee, Vidarian Lowe, high ankle sprain, Andrew Farmer, back, William Bradley King was waived, injured. Andrew Farmer was also waived with a back injury. And then you got Romello Height, who was back at practice, but suffered some very, it scared the hell out of everybody, cramps yesterday. So, Romello Height's on the list, but he's back at practice. So maybe I should have done him a favor and taken him off to spare him the bad juju. But so yeah, as you can see, in typical 49ers fashion, injuries are already reshaping the roster. They're already signing players to try to deal with the injuries, and it's already providing opportunities for guys that, that's what it's all about, man. Like, I understand that injuries suck, but the entire premise of building a roster and the entire premise of building a young player and being a backup is to get a chance to step in, and then you go from there. Brock Purdy, Trey Lance got hurt. Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. Brock Purdy comes in and you all of a sudden have a genuine star quarterback. somebody that gets into the conversation of top 10 all the time. That's just how it happens. So it sucks, but that's just the way the NFL meritocracy works. KP, any last thoughts, man?
No, I'm good. 49ers, just, stay safe. Stop punching people in the ribs, and everything's going to be okay.
It's your fault, Fred Warner. Just calm down, man. Calm down. Sounds like him and Trey Greenlaw are having a hell of a time out there. It's
I
cool
can
to
only
see.
imagine. They're probably harassing.
I know. Just everybody at all points, like in the cafeteria, in the locker room, in the hallways. It's like those two guys on the Mighty Ducks. I can't remember their names. There were those two guys on the Mighty Ducks.
The Bash Bros?
Yeah, the Bash Bros, the bullies. That's exactly who they are. Okay. All right, everybody. I appreciate you. I know the subject matter is not the most upbeat already, but hey, again, somebody's going to benefit from them.
It's real life, and we have to talk about what life, what's life's going to be like for the other players on the roster who are going to step up in place.
We do. And I'm going to be shooting the 49ers media staff a little email either today or tomorrow, trying to get in there for the next set of practices. So we'll see how that goes. Sometimes they get a little picky, they get a little exclusive. We'll see, but there's a chance that coming up here in a couple days, I may be at Levi's Stadium, sitting in some weird room recording this thing. So appreciate everybody. If you're on a podcast, if you're listening, jump on Apple Podcasts, jump on Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. If you don't mind, we would be in your debt. If you're on here on YouTube right now, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you liked. You guys are already in the comments, basically driving the conversation forward, which I really, really appreciate you guys hanging out, man. It means a lot. It's just helping this thing get moving. That's it for today, man. We will be back on here Monday, unless something gets us on here sooner. I shouldn't have said that. So emergency episodes are always an option.
Right.
But I appreciate you guys, man. Thanks for hanging out for another episode. I'm Rob. That's KP. This is Striking Gold, and we are signing out.